Alright, ladies and gentlemen, prepare to get triggered. I know this video is going to be controversial and make some of you uncomfortable, but I'm not making this video so that everyone watching can live in their little bubble believing that life in Korea is one big happy K-drama. The purpose of this video is to inform people of some of the less attractive aspects of Korean culture, so that the foreigners who do decide to visit are properly informed and can prepare accordingly. Similarly, Korean viewers can do some introspection to see if they're guilty of any of the behaviors I'm about to describe. I'll be the first to say that I love Korea, which is why I live here and have no plans of leaving. With that in mind, there is always room for improvement. So without further ado, here are 10 racist things you will experience in Korea. Number 1. Koreans won't sit next to you in public transportation. Now, this isn't unique to Korea. I've actually experienced this in many Asian countries. It could be rush hour in a stuffed subway. People will be standing shoulder to shoulder, bumping up against each other at every turn of the tracks. Every seat will be tightly packed. That is, every seat except the ones directly beside you. Those will be wide open. This is the case for foreigners of most races, but this is especially true for black people. And if a foreigner takes a seat next to a Korean, chances are, after one or two stops, the Korean will get up and switch seats or stand somewhere else. Now, admittedly, things have been improving, especially amongst the younger generation of Koreans. While you can't change everyone, my advice to foreigners is to be considerate of other passengers. Don't take up more space than necessary, and don't be loud. If Koreans still decide to keep their distance, that's their problem. Number 2. Taxis often ignore you. I've lost track of how many times I've hailed the taxi only for it to pull up close enough to recognize that I'm a foreigner and then speed back up and drive off. Many of the times that they do stop, the driver has a bad attitude if I show even the slightest difficulty pronouncing the destination. One time, my taxi driver even called another taxi driver and told him in Korean that he had a stupid foreigner passenger because he didn't think I understood Korean. Luckily, now Korea has an app called Kakao Taxi, which has made great improvements in reducing the likelihood of racist interactions by minimizing passenger details and providing the address in advance. These racist incidents do still occur, but they occur less frequently. If you can't access the app and you want to reduce the likelihood of this happening to you, always have your destination information ready, and if you can't pronounce the words clearly, have the address written out in Korean. Number 3. Some places don't allow foreigners. This would be illegal in America, but surprisingly it's not too uncommon in Korea, especially for certain bars, clubs, and restaurants, and it occurs in cities throughout Korea. This happened frequently during the recent pandemic. Shop owners would say that foreigners were too high risk for spreading the virus. But even before the pandemic, owners would say that foreigners caused too many problems, like fighting, not paying, or harassing other customers. There has been some truth to this, particularly among the U.S. military, but this is still a form of racism nonetheless. There are also examples of reverse racism, in which some bars and clubs offer discounted admission or drinks specifically to foreigners. I've gone to a club once with a group of foreigners with one Korean among us. The bouncer actually said that our Korean friend was the only one who had to pay to enter. Ultimately, we all chipped in for his admission fee, but it was definitely a strange experience. Number 4. Easier university admissions and grading. Keeping with the topic of reverse discrimination, Korean universities often have easier admission standards and grading methods for foreigners. There's a couple of reasons for this. First, Korean universities deeply care about their reputations, which are somewhat influenced by their global ranking. One of the criteria of the ranking system is based on the ratio of international students to domestic students. The more international students a school has, the higher its global ranking. Secondly, international students in Korea are typically under the D2 visa. Therefore, most international students rely on scholarships for income, which are based on grades. Because of this, the grading standard is typically more lenient towards international students, especially at the graduate level programs where grades don't really matter as much anyways. Regardless, this is a form of racism that most Koreans don't like, but deal with. Number 5. Prices get marked up. It's pretty common to hear stories of foreigners having to pay more for certain items from markets or outlets than their Korean friends had to pay. One time, in Dongdaemun, a place in Seoul known for its clothing outlets, I asked the price for a shirt and was told 47,000 won, which is about $35 US. An hour later, my girlfriend at the time asked for the price of the same shirt and was told 38,000 won, which is about $30 US. Sure, it's possible that this was just pretty privilege, who knows, but this is just one example. Daejeon, Korea's fifth largest city, has a policy where foreigners have to pay 300,000 won for a gas utility deposit, which Koreans don't have to pay. This is supposedly because of foreigners causing property damage or leaving without paying. I've also personally observed a similar situation regarding a rent deposit in which the landlord said that foreigners had to pay a larger deposit because the previous tenants were Indian and their food made the whole building smell, which I honestly thought was hilarious. In order to reduce the likelihood of this problem occurring, just have your Korean friend investigate the price before you decide to make a purchase that you may be concerned about. Number 6. Authorities will side with Koreans before you. If a fight breaks out, or if you're in a car accident, or if there's any conflict that attracts law enforcement, foreigners will be at a disadvantage from the start. This is especially true if you don't speak Korean or if the person accusing you is an elder. In my personal opinion, Korea as a whole is more concerned with keeping the peace than it is with serving justice. Also, foreigners have built somewhat of a reputation for making trouble. This means that if it's easier to resolve a situation by punishing you than by investigating the truth, then that's what they'll do. You will be the sacrificial goat so society can get back to its normal, peaceful routine. The best way to avoid these situations is to walk away from confrontations whenever you can, whether you're in the right or wrong, especially if elders are involved. And if possible, learn Korean. Number 7. The Hukhyung effect. Hukhyung actually originated as a term of endearment among the younger Korean population. The term literally means black big brother, which signifies the skilled and confident reputation of African American culture in Korea, particularly with regards to rap music and sports. Essentially, being black can make you cool by default among many of the younger Korean population. But, as a result, if you're black, you'll be used as a benchmark for sports, fashion, dancing, and other things. You could be dancing in a club minding your own business, and a Korean guy from some high school dance group will come up to you and challenge you to a dance battle. These behaviors aren't done aggressively or rudely, but the reasoning is pretty clear. And if you're black, at some point some younger Korean guy will come up to you and try to act gangsta, using some stereotypical line they got off TV, like, "Yo, what's up, homie?" Black people will randomly be asked if they play basketball, or how big their jumping ability is. When black people go into a noraebang, basically a karaoke room, they're expected to sing rap songs. And if you have a unique hairstyle, some Koreans will come up to you and try to touch your hair without permission. But this isn't meant to be disrespectful. It's more so just an honest matter of curiosity. Number 8. You're fetishized by youth and unaccepted by parents. Koreans may date you specifically because you're a foreigner and they want to satisfy a fetish or check off an item from their bucket list. This applies to both Korean men and women. You might be their foreign fantasy or their forbidden fruit, perhaps a cool story to brag about to their friends. But this often ends when it comes time to meet their parents. Korean parents aren't as open to the idea of their sons and daughters dating foreigners. This is even more often the case if the foreigner happens to be from Africa. Interracial relationships are tolerated more often if the foreigner is white. While the younger generation is more open to the idea of dating foreigners, they're also aware that their parents will likely disapprove, so expect to be kept out of family events for a while, if not indefinitely. Number 9. Old men try to buy your services. Yeah, you understood correctly. If you're a younger white woman, especially if you have blonde hair or look Russian or Eastern European, some older Korean men might mistake you for a prostitute. White girls purportedly have a reputation among Korean guys as being easy. A lot of my Western female friends have told me stories about old Korean men asking how much for a night, or being inappropriately touched on buses or in a nightlife setting. I know what you're thinking. What were they wearing? After all, Korea is a pretty conservative country, especially when it comes to what women wear. But these Western women wore similar outfits to what many young, attractive Korean women wear. Skirts, yeah, but no belly skin and not much cleavage. So, for any young Western women planning to enjoy nightlife in Korea, just be mindful of your surroundings and consider traveling with friends. Number 10. Hatred of China and Japan. Koreans express a general dislike towards China and Japan. The hatred is usually directed at the Chinese and Japanese governments, but other times it extends towards individual citizens. For China, it could be related to government decisions, theft of intellectual property, influence over North Korea, or air pollution and not taking responsibility for it. I used to know a Korean guy who would jokingly say things like, "The only good Chinese is a dead Chinese." Yeah, that's pretty messed up. For Japan, the hatred is based on World War II, the Japanese occupation of Korea, and the taking of Korean women as slaves and not apologizing for it. Now, whether or not the Japanese government actually has or hasn't apologized for it is a separate debate. The point I'm making here is just to highlight that there is racism stemming from this issue. This is a big reason why Korea versus Japan soccer matches are such a huge deal. That said, a lot of Koreans like to visit Japan for tourism and shopping, especially now that the prices are pretty low. So, in summary, Korea is still adjusting to the sudden recent influx of foreigners. As a result, there are still many Koreans, especially the elderly, that exhibit racist behaviors towards foreigners. Some of these behaviors are completely disrespectful and unjustified. Other behaviors are just genuinely out of curiosity and unfamiliarity. If you plan on coming to Korea, it's important to remember that you are entering their world. As a foreigner, you will likely experience at least one, if not many, of these racist situations. All you can do is prepare accordingly and try to minimize their occurrences. To me, this means taking things in stride and accepting the bad with the good. And in my personal opinion, there's a lot more good than bad. Korea has come a long way over the years and continues to show signs of improvement. But what do you think? Is there anything I missed or anything that you disagreed with? If so, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in Korea.